2014 Packers vs. Seahawks NFC Championship, January 18th, 2015. The Green Bay Packers had the defending champion Seattle Seahawks beaten. At least that's what the scoreboard said. Up 19-7 with just over 5 minutes left in the NFC Championship game, Green Bay had forced 4 interceptions from Russell Wilson and silenced the loudest stadium in football. Their win probability? 97%. The Super Bowl was theirs. Then came one of the greatest collapses the league has ever seen. First, Seattle faked a field goal.
The Seattle Seahawks put themselves back in the game on a fake field goal in the third quarter of Sunday's NFC Championship game.
Dolphins feel good about themselves. It's a fake!
John Ryan, the punter, threw a touchdown pass to Gary Gilliam, the kind of play only desperation creates. Then Wilson, ice cold all game, finally came alive. With 2:09 left, he scrambled in for a 1-yard score, cutting the lead to 19-14. Then disaster struck. Brandon Bostic, a backup tight end, muffed the onside kick that could have sealed the game. Chris Matthews recovered for Seattle. One play later, Marshawn Lynch rumbled 24 yards for the go-ahead touchdown. Wilson hit Luke Wilson for the 2-point conversion, making it 22-19. Aaron Rodgers, who had played through a torn calf and battled all day, managed to force overtime with a field goal. But he never touched the ball again. In overtime, Wilson launched a 35-yard strike to Jermaine Kearse for the game winner. Seattle 28, Green Bay 22. The fallout was devastating. The Packers had outplayed the Seahawks for 55 minutes, only to collapse in the final 5. Mike McCarthy's conservative play calling was shredded. Bostic became a scapegoat and was cut that offseason. Rodgers never forgot it, later calling it the toughest loss of his career. For Green Bay, this wasn't just a loss. It was a choke that cost them a Super Bowl berth and wasted one of the best defenses in Rodgers' prime seasons. 2003 Giants vs. 49ers, wildcard, January 5th, 2003. The New York Giants had the San Francisco 49ers buried. Late in the third quarter of the NFC wildcard game, New York led 38-14. Kerry Collins was on fire, 336 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. The Giants' defense had bottled up Jeff Garcia and Terrell Owens. It looked like a blowout. Then came one of the most disgraceful collapses the NFL has ever seen. The 49ers erupted for 25 unanswered points. Jeff Garcia shredded the defense for 3 second-half touchdowns. Terrell Owens, double-covered, still found ways to burn New York. A game that should have been over turned into a free fall. By the fourth quarter, the Giants' 24-point cushion was gone. With just over a minute left, San Francisco led 39-38. Still, New York had one last chance. Collins drove the Giants into field goal range, setting up a 41-yard attempt for the win. The snap was botched. Holder Matt Allen scrambled and heaved the ball downfield. The pass fell incomplete, and that was it. Giants fans screamed for a flag after a blatant pass interference call went unmade. The officials admitted the mistake after the game. But the loss stood. The fallout was immediate. Head coach Jim Fassel was fired. The Giants entered a rebuild, and that choke became one of the most infamous in playoff history. New York had a 24-point lead with 17 minutes left, and they let it slip away. One of the greatest implosions ever seen in the NFL postseason, Chargers vs. Jaguars, 2022 wildcard, January 14th, 2023. The Los Angeles Chargers had everything going their way. On the road in Jacksonville, they led 27-0 late in the second quarter. Trevor Lawrence had already thrown 4 interceptions. The Jaguars looked broken. The game looked over. The Chargers were already celebrating. Then came the collapse. Lawrence, humiliated in the first half, flipped the script. In the second half, he was perfect. 4 touchdown passes. Evan Engram, Marvin Jones, Zay Jones, Christian Kirk. Jacksonville clawed back 1 score at a time while the Chargers froze. Their offense, electric early, went silent. Just 3 points after halftime. The turning point came late in the fourth. Down 30-26, Lawrence led a relentless drive capped by a 2-yard touchdown pass to Christian Kirk. Then, instead of tying the game, Doug Peterson rolled the dice. A 2-point conversion. Lawrence dove across the goal line. 30-28. Jacksonville had life. On the final drive, the Jaguars bled the clock and set up Riley Patterson from 36 yards out. As the kick sailed through the uprights, the comeback was complete. Jaguars 31, Chargers 30. A 27-point lead erased. The third largest collapse in NFL playoff history. The fallout was pure humiliation. Brandon Staley was ripped apart for his play calling and nearly lost his job. Justin Herbert, one of the most talented young quarterbacks in the league, watched his first playoff game turn into an embarrassment that still haunts his reputation. The Chargers had the game won. They let it vanish. And for a franchise already known for failure, this wasn't just a loss. It was another curse, another scar, another choke that defined them. 2005 Colts vs. Steelers. AFC Divisional Round, January 15th, 2006. The Indianapolis Colts were unstoppable in the regular season. Peyton Manning threw 28 touchdowns against just 10 interceptions. Edgerrin James ran for over 1,500 yards. Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne formed the league's most feared receiving duo. The Colts finished 14-2, the AFC's #1 seed, and looked destined for a Super Bowl run. But when the Pittsburgh Steelers came to town in the divisional round, everything fell apart. Pittsburgh jumped out to a 21-3 lead, Manning, pressured relentlessly, was sacked 5 times. The Colts' offensive line, so dominant all season, collapsed when it mattered most. Manning kept them alive, clawing back to make it 21-18 late, but the game turned on one play. With 1:20 left, Jerome Bettis fumbled at the Colts' 2-yard line. Nick Harper scooped it up and had daylight, but was dragged down at midfield. Instead of a miracle, it was just another chance squandered. Manning got the Colts into position for overtime, setting up kicker Mike Vanderjagt for a 46-yard field goal. Vanderjagt had been automatic at home, but with the season on the line, he hooked it wide right. Game over. Steelers 21, Colts 18. The fallout was brutal. That Colts team, Manning, Harrison, Wayne, James, Dwight Freeney, never played another snap together. It was the most talented roster of Manning's career, and it never reached a Super Bowl. The choker label that dogged him for years only grew louder. The 2005 Colts had everything, the record, the talent, the MVP quarterback, but in January, when it mattered most, they folded. Another contender turned to dust. Another all-time choke, Chiefs vs. Bengals. 2022 AFC Championship, January 30th, 2022. The Kansas City Chiefs were back in the AFC Championship game. Hosting the Cincinnati Bengals at Arrowhead, Patrick Mahomes had just torched the Bills a week earlier in one of the greatest playoff duels ever. Now, against an upstart Bengals team, he looked ready to punch his ticket to a third straight Super Bowl. By late in the first half, it was 21-3. Mahomes was in full control, dissecting Cincinnati's defense. Arrowhead roared. Another blowout seemed inevitable, but the Bengals didn't fold. With seconds left in the half, the Chiefs had a chance to go up 3 scores. Instead, Mahomes threw a swing pass to Tyreek Hill that was stopped short of the goal line. No points. Momentum swung. From there, Kansas City collapsed. Mahomes, flawless in the first half, looked lost in the second. He went just 8 of 18 for 55 yards with 2 interceptions after halftime. The Chiefs' offense, once unstoppable, scored just 3 points in the final 30 minutes of regulation. The Bengals clawed back behind Joe Burrow, tying the game at 24 and forcing overtime. Arrowhead had seen this before, Mahomes with the ball needing one drive. But this time, he forced a throw deep into double coverage. Intercepted. Cincinnati capitalized, and Evan McPherson's field goal sealed a 27-24 shocker. The fallout was undeniable. The Chiefs' aura of invincibility cracked. For the first time in Mahomes' career, he looked human on the biggest stage. And for the Bengals, it was the night they proved they belonged among the AFC's elite. Kansas City had a 21-3 lead at home with the best quarterback in football, and they let it slip away. One of the most stunning chokes of the Mahomes era, Raiders vs. Patriots, 2001 AFC Divisional Round, January 19, 2002. The Oakland Raiders had the defending AFC champion Patriots beaten in Foxborough. It was a snowstorm, a grinder of a game, and with under 2 minutes left, Oakland led 13-10. Charles Woodson came off the edge, stripped Tom Brady, and Greg Biekert fell on the ball. Game over. Raiders moving on, or so it seemed. Then came the call. Referee Walt Coleman went under the hood and pulled out one of the most infamous rulings in NFL history, the tuck rule. Brady's fumble was overturned to an incomplete pass. Instead of Oakland sealing the win, New England got the ball back. Adam Vinatieri nailed a 45-yard field goal through the blizzard to tie it, then won it in overtime with another kick. Patriots 16, Raiders 13, the fallout was historic. For Oakland, it was the death of a dynasty that never fully formed. John Gruden was traded to Tampa Bay weeks later. The Raiders spiraled, reaching just one more Super Bowl, where Gruden and his Buccaneers humiliated them. For New England, it was the birth of the Brady-Belichick dynasty, the first of 6 Lombardi trophies together. The Raiders had beaten the Patriots. Everyone watching knew it. But one rule, one reversal, flipped history on its head. Instead of Oakland, it was New England that launched a dynasty that reshaped the NFL. The tuck rule wasn't just a bad call. It was a choke, a collapse of focus in the aftermath, and a reminder that in the playoffs, destiny can be stolen in an instant. 2010 Saints vs. Seahawks, wildcard, January 8, 2011. The defending champion New Orleans Saints walked into Seattle as heavy favorites. They were 11-5. The Seahawks? Just 7-9, the first losing team ever to host a playoff game. Drew Brees was supposed to roll. Instead, the Saints choked on the biggest stage. New Orleans' defense never had control. Matt Hasselbeck, a quarterback most thought was washed, threw 4 touchdowns. Still, the Saints kept it close, trailing just 34-30 late in the fourth. One defensive stop, and they'd escape. Then came the play that defined the game, and the collapse. Marshawn Lynch took a handoff, broke one tackle, then another. 9 defenders tried to bring him down. None succeeded. 67 yards later, Lynch dove into the end zone, the stadium literally shaking from the noise. The Beastquake wasn't just a run, it was the dagger. Seattle finished the job, stunning the Saints 41-36. The fallout was brutal for New Orleans. Just a year removed from their Super Bowl win, they had been eliminated by a 7-9 team. Sean Payton's team looked soft, outmuscled, and unprepared. For years after, that upset lingered like a stain. proof that even champions could collapse. For the Seahawks, it was a birth. The Beastquake became a symbol of Seattle's new identity: violent, physical, fearless. For the Saints, it was the opposite: a choke that ended a dynasty before it had the chance to truly take root. 2011, Ravens versus Patriots, AFC Championship, January 22, 2012. The Baltimore Ravens were one step away from the Super Bowl. Ray Lewis and Ed Reed still commanded the defense. Joe Flacco, so often criticized, was playing the best postseason football of his career. In Foxborough, against Brady and Belichick, the Ravens had the Patriots on the ropes. Late in the fourth, down 23-20, Flacco delivered the throw of his life, a perfect strike to Lee Evans in the end zone.
Why not go for the touchdown if you can? And Lee Evans grabs it.
For a moment, it was the game winner. Then Sterling Moore punched the ball free. Evans dropped it. Touchdown erased. Baltimore settled for a field goal attempt to tie. From 32 yards out, Billy Cundiff lined up. Automatic all season, a veteran with ice in his veins. But with 15 seconds left, he shanked it, wide left. Patriots win 23-20. Ravens stunned. The fallout was brutal. Evans never played another snap in the NFL. Cundiff was cut. And a team that had Brady beaten watched its season end on two of the most infamous blunders in playoff history. Baltimore got revenge the very next year, returning to Foxborough and knocking out the Patriots en route to a Super Bowl title. But this game, the Evans drop, the Cundiff miss, remains the choke that defined them until redemption arrived. In the NFL, greatness isn't just about talent or game plans. It's about finishing. And when the moment came, the 2011 Ravens couldn't finish. 2 plays, 2 failures, and one of the most painful collapses in playoff history. If you want more stories of NFL greatness and collapse, hit subscribe, drop a like, and stick around. The next chapter of football history is already waiting.